How we doing? I am your host, Robert T. Gardner Jr., also known as Dr. Rob. Welcome to Station BOB. And let me tell you a little about thee. I am a kid from a Harlem hood who turned out good. I got educated like I should. Now I know how to help you grow to become the best of your being in life, love, and work. With that said, I am here to provide you with some clarity associated with the perplexity of the challenges in your life, love, and work. So, without further ado, let's get down on it. Enjoy the show. Yes. Welcome once again, my friend, to Station BOB, where you listen to learn how to become the best of your being in life, love, and work. I'm your host, Dr. Rob, and as usual, I have another most interesting topic. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure that I can call this a topic. It's more of a question for a topic. And what I have found here at Station BOB, I like to talk about and have my podcast deal with issues that perhaps we don't talk about enough. And it's the tough things that we need to talk about in order to get to the easier part of life. And so we are still in the month of November. And November has always been a very interesting month for me because when I was a child growing up, it was just the strangest thing that it seemed like a lot of my family members passed away every November. When I say a lot, I mean like it was once a year, every November, either I lost an aunt or an uncle, and the cycle continued on November 13th, 1966, which is the day that my mother passed away. I remember as a little boy, she sent me to a program, that I would attend regularly, just basically a recreational program. And I went to the program, I think about 9 o'clock in the morning that day, and came home about 5 or 6. And being that it was November, it was already dark outside. And I remember I was calling my mother out the window. I grew up in the projects in Harlem, and I was calling her out the window because I wanted her to throw me some money out the window in a paper bag so I can get some candy or something before I went upstairs. And my sister, came to the window, my oldest sister, and she said, "Come upstairs. Mommy is sick." But because my sister and I, we used to fight a lot, I didn't believe her. So I continued to call my mother, Mom. And my sister said, "I said, come upstairs. Mommy is sick." There was just something in her voice that got my attention with that. And so I went upstairs, and lo and behold, my mother was unconscious laying on my bed in a coma. She had an aneurysm. And then the next day, which was November 13th, we received the news that she passed away in the hospital. And, I can't even find the words to describe how devastating that was. As a matter of fact, nobody even told me. What happened is my uncle from Philadelphia came into the room where me and my sister were sitting around talking. And I guess being that she was the oldest, he whispered in her ear. I'm not sure what he said, but he delivered the message that our mother was dead. And she just started crying and wailing all over the place. And I remember yelling and saying, "What happened? What happened?" And she never answered me. And so I just started crying. And so my mother wasn't sick, although she did get migraine headaches often enough, but she wasn't sick and she didn't suffer where, we would have had a chance to go to the hospital and sit by her and maybe just tell her how much we love her. She just died suddenly. And so thinking about that, not only that, over the past 18 months with the COVID-19 virus, and, as many people were dying on a daily basis and watching the news, and I'm sure you may have seen this as well, where so many people who were, pretty much in their last minutes or hour or so before their death, as a result of the virus, the hospital administrators and nurses and other medical staff were using their cell phones to contact their family members to give them an opportunity to say goodbye to their loved ones, their parents, their brothers, sisters, their child, or whoever was the victim, at that particular time. And I just, I was really amazed by that people had an opportunity to say goodbye to their loved ones. It sounds kind of weird because you never know when the bell is going to toll for thee. And so here you have just thousands and hundreds of thousands of people passing away, and many of them, many of their family members had an opportunity to say goodbye to them and tell them how much they loved them, and so on and so forth. And so that brings me to the point where we are today, because I have a friend who's my childhood friend. I've known her for, I don't know, more than 60 years, if you will, because growing up in the projects, what happened is our mothers, her mother and my mother, they were best friends in high school. And somehow, I don't know how they pulled this off, but they wound up living in the same project building. And so my friend that I'm talking about now, her name is Cynthia, and she was diagnosed with cancer some time ago. I'm not sure when, because we've lost touch with one another. However, because she has been sick, and I'm still, close friends with several of my, my day ones from the projects, I was able to find out what is going on with Cynthia. And so I think about 3 weeks ago, the doctors sent Cynthia home from the hospital, in connection with her cancer, and they gave her notice that there was nothing else they can do for her, and they were sending her to a hospice, so that she could live out her life comfortably in a different place other than the hospital. So lo and behold, Cynthia chose to go home and let, her apartment be the place where she live out the rest of her life in the, in, I guess, a hospice, declared hospice state. And so last Saturday, my friends and I think it was 3 or 4 of us, we went by to see her. And I just felt it was kind of weird because, I said to my wife, here she is, expected to actually die any day now. And we're going to see her. And it just felt kind of weird to me because I never been in that situation where I was visiting someone who, knew they were going to pass away and it could be any day. And I'm like, well, what do you say? How do you say goodbye? How do you leave when you believe the visit is over? And so, anyway, my boys called me. And, I wasn't going to go at first because I felt, I don't know, it was just a strange kind of feeling to me. But, of course, so much of what we feel is in our mind. And I was able to get over my feelings because her situation is more important than what I was feeling. So, anyway, my friends and I, we visited her last Saturday. I think it was November 13th. As a matter of fact, it was the day my mother died. We visited Cynthia. And we stayed, with her for about two hours or so. And it seemed like it was a good time because we talked, we laughed, we looked at pictures, from the old days when we were growing up as children. And then other people were there. And what I've been noticing, Cynthia just has a lively spirit. Although she is bedridden, she is showing up on Facebook on a daily basis with pictures of friends and people that we grew up with that I haven't seen for years. All of these people are coming out of the woodwork to visit Cynthia in her so-called last days. And her spirit has just been tremendous. And so, at any rate, it is because of her that I decided to do this podcast today, whereby it got me to thinking about whether or not, if you had the choice, would you prefer to say goodbye to a loved one before they die? Or do you prefer that a loved one passes away without notice when their time comes? And the question there also that I would like to add to that, is there any less pain in the process if you had the chance to say goodbye before a loved one dies? What do you think? Well, I know that's a heavy question. And it's heavy for me because I did not get to say goodbye to my mother before she died suddenly. And it was devastating. Now, I don't know if it would have been any less devastating had she been sick and suffered, and I may have been able to sit by her bedside and just let her know how much I loved her and so on and so forth, because that's a very sad experience as well. But I just wanted to know, and it just, was really on my mind, does it make it easier for an individual, for you or for me, if we have a chance to say goodbye to a loved one? Or is it the same pain? Do you feel the same pain if they died when their time comes without notice, suddenly, sort of in the same way that my mother passed away? And so, as I said, this whole thing about Cynthia, seeing her spirit, just got me thinking. And I was wondering about the question, is it easier or does it make it better if you get a chance to say goodbye to a loved one? Or is it just as painful if they die suddenly? Let's talk about that some more. I'm going to step aside to let a promo in, and we'll pick up the discussion on the other side of the promo.
Have you read any good books lately? Your host, Robert T. Gardner Jr., also known as Dr. Rob, is the author of 3 great books. In his first book, The Choices We Make, Robert takes a look at relationships to help readers learn how to have a good relationship with themselves before they can have good relationships with others. In his second book, Access Denied, Robert brings an eye-opening perspective about what happens to children and fathers when their relationships with the mothers of their children end on bad terms. Robert explores what he calls child porn, when a parent, usually the mother, uses a child as a weapon to hurt the other parent. Robert provides a let-go lab in his book to help parents find positive ways to resolve their issues in the best interest of their children. Light Up Your Life is Robert's latest book. Robert writes about the fact that we are all born with a special God-given talent. Even though we are all born with a special talent, most of us miss our true calling. In this book, you will learn how to find your special talent and light up your life so that you can become the person you were born to be and live a more fulfilled, purpose-driven life. Books are available at barnesandnobles.com, amazon.com, and Robert's website, relationshipreadiness.org. Thank you, and back to the show.
Okay, welcome back. And as you know, we're on the subject about death and dying, I guess. And I had posed a question prior to the promo asking whether or not if you think or would you prefer to have an opportunity to say goodbye to a loved one before they die, or would it be just as hard on you or for you if they died suddenly, as most people do? You know, we usually die in an untimely fashion, and some of us, of course, are blessed to live out our lives for 75, 80, 85 years or so. As a matter of fact, my father is 87 years old. So there is no easy answer to that question. And this is, it's a funny thing because here we are in the month of November, and Thanksgiving is this coming Thursday. And then shortly after Thanksgiving, then here comes Christmas and New Year's. And so November and December and even January, for many people and many reasons, is sort of a paradoxical time of year, because there are many people who are not really enjoying, or who don't enjoy the holidays because of, the loss of parents and grandparents and brothers and sisters, especially as a result of COVID. But even before COVID, the holidays were an issue for family members because, just their loved ones, are no longer going to be present on Thanksgiving and, present on Christmas and New Year's. And so this time of year is a difficult time for many people. But the idea of, I was just wondering about the idea of having a chance to say goodbye to a loved one before they die. Would you be able to find any appreciable value in that experience? Or does it not matter? In other words, or is it still the same for you, whether they die suddenly or whether or not you have a chance to say goodbye? I'm really not sure how to answer that question, but I just think that it's something to think about, because it seems to be that opportunity, because of COVID, seems to be available, or to have been available more so than ever. And now when I think about my friend Cynthia, who is, who was sent home, as I mentioned earlier, more than 3 weeks ago, because the doctors informed her that there was nothing else that they can do for her, medically speaking. But it seems like she must have gotten a dose of the Holy Ghost because her spirits are high. And as I said, people are visiting her from the South Carolina, Delaware, the projects where we grew up, the Bronx. I mean, she has been very active on Facebook, and I mean, she writes long. She posts, interesting information. You would never know that she was sent home to die by the doctors. You would never know that when you see her pictures and you read her posts on Facebook and just her ever-loving energy. And so I just wanted to share that topic with you. I think it's something to think about, something to talk about. If you have any thoughts about that, please send me an email at changeagentrtg@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you may be thinking about that, because this is something that is in. It's a real thing. It's happening in real time during our life experience. And I have been around for a long time now, and I don't know of any other time where so many people, have been able to say goodbye to a loved one before they die. And I'm not so sure that that's a good thing, but it is a thing. And I think about my own life. I'll just talk about me. I have a wife and 3 children, and none of us know when our time will come or how we will pass when our time comes. But I think if I had the opportunity, I would love to be able to say goodbye to my wife and children before I died, just to let them know how much I love them, how wonderful my wife has been, how wonderful my children are. And I think most of all, because I love to teach and provide life lessons, I would just want that one more chance where I could, talk to my 21-year-old daughter, soon to be 22, and talk to my 11-year-old son and my 8-year-old daughter, soon to be 9 years old. I would love to just give them one last life lesson, and hopefully it would be the lesson that would get them through in terms of them making good choices and believing that they can do anything they want to do, and they would understand that, when I pass, that as sad as they may feel about me passing away, they should also celebrate the fact that they had a father, that they knew who their father, that they knew who their father was and is, and most of all, understand that I, as their father, would not want them to spend too much time being sad and angry or unhappy or whatever one may feel when they experience the loss of a major loss of a loved one. And I know, for me, with my mother passing suddenly, of course, I was devastated by that. I remember attending her funeral, and I cried so much and so loud that I had to be removed from the funeral. But I think in my mother's name, I really believe that she would not have wanted me to not get over well, I don't want to say get over, because I don't think you ever get over the loss of a parent, of a child, or anybody who is, just a major figure or person in your life. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that my mother would have wanted me to be, stifled and take myself out of circulation by drinking and drugging. She would have wanted me to grow up and become a productive member of society. And that is the same message that I would have liked to pass on to my children, because, as sure as we are born, we are going to die. And of course, none of us want to die. And so the fact of the matter is that one day we all are going to die. And so when my time comes, if I have a chance for my children to say goodbye and for me to say goodbye to them, I think that would be a tremendous opportunity, and for me to leave them one last life lesson. And of course, they may not hear me because of the gravity of the situation. But for me, like I said, my mother died without notice. I didn't have an opportunity to say goodbye, and that was devastating. But I don't know if it would ease the pain of my children and my wife to have a chance to say goodbye, but it just sounds like it would be a better situation and circumstance. And so I would love to know your thoughts about that. And I know this is a deep topic. Nobody likes to talk about death, of course, but this is that time of year where everybody is not feeling happy about Thanksgiving, and everybody is not feeling merry about Christmas. And many people are not happy about a new year because of previous losses of significant family members, people they were close to in their lives. And so I want to thank you for listening. And before we wrap up the show, I'm going to step to the side and let another promo in, and we'll pick it up on the other side of the break.
Relationship Readiness Life and Work Preparedness Services, the place you come to for coaching, consulting, and counseling in life, love, and work. We are a multi-purpose service organization that will coach you up, educate, guide, and motivate you to succeed. We provide management training and consulting services for all businesses in the areas of employee relations, unionized employees, progressive discipline, the annual review process, and emotional intelligence to develop effective leaders for your organization. And our relationship counseling services for individuals, couples, groups show you how to become relationship ready with improved self-esteem, resilience, and self-awareness. To learn more about our programs and services, please contact Robert T. Gardner Jr. by email at changeagentrtg@gmail.com or request a meeting for a free 1-hour consultation at relationshipreadiness.org. Thank you, and let's go back to Station BOB.
Okay, welcome back. And so, just before we wrap up, I just wanted to say that this is an interesting time for us with COVID. And as I said earlier, with many people, seemingly having had the opportunity to say goodbye to their loved ones, where, various medical staff at hospitals all over the United States were kind enough to reach out to their family members to give them a chance to say goodbye to their loved ones before they passed away. And then I had the tremendous opportunity to say goodbye to my childhood friend. At this point, I'm not even sure she's going to pass away, anytime soon, because she seems to be going pretty strong. And so God bless her, and I hope she can go on as long as she can go on for. And just know that this life we live, we only live once. Try to live it to the fullest, because that's all you have. And so hopefully this discussion, just added some value to the thoughts that you think about this time, around this time of the year. And I know this is probably, a deep subject for some, but it is a subject about life, and that's what we do at Station BOB. We talk about the things that are, maybe too hard for people to talk about, but they need to be discussed. And because we like to find resolution and get answers to the tough questions and the tough situations in life. So thank you once again, my friend, for tuning in. And you can find my podcast anywhere you listen to other podcasts that you are interested in. Spotify, Apple, Pandora, and we're all over LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you again for tuning in. And remember, love is an action, not a word. And it's not supposed to hurt. Until the next time we meet, be nice to somebody that you don't know. I'll talk to you later. Peace. As we wrap up this show, I hope this topic helped you to grow. And now you know a little bit more than you knew before. If you have any questions about this topic, please email me at changeagentrtg@gmail.com. See my website, relationshipreadiness.org, to learn more about my counseling, consulting, and educational programs related to life, love, and work. Finally, in the words of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. Until we meet again, do the right thing when nobody is looking. Peace, beloved.